Welcome to Frank's Fables. Before we begin, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy stories that give a vulnerable child a voice, be sure to like and subscribe for more. Mr. Kevin Evans had spent most of his 62 years in places louder than the dim hallway of Crestview Terrace, yet in the humid hush of late August, he found a different kind of alertness settling into his bones. The former staff sergeant lived alone in apartment 2C, a corner unit that tasted of lemon polish and old cedar trunk, the same trunk he had carted through 2 wars and the derailment of a life he had once imagined sharing forever with his late wife, Margaret. On most evenings he brewed her favorite chamomile, sorted the mail into precise stacks, and glanced at the door only when the furnace clicked. Discipline shaped everything for Kevin. Bed made by dawn, shirts folded with crisp military corners, blinds angled exactly 32 degrees to block the streetlight glare. That rhythm faltered the night he heard the first tap. It was impossibly soft. 1, 2, 3 knocks, so hesitant they might have been the building settling. Kevin paused midway through filling the kettle, head cocked. A second series followed, shy as a question mark. No announced visitor arrived at 10:07 p.m. in Crestview Terrace, so he approached the peephole as if it were an outpost slit. Through the distorted lens floated the shape of a child, a girl no taller than his umbrella stand, wearing pajamas so large the cuffs slouched past her feet. Her hair fell in uneven wisps around wide brown eyes reflective enough to hold the corridor's single bulb. "Oops, wrong door," she whispered, voice muffled by the wood. Then she flashed a self-conscious smile that died as quickly as it formed and tiptoed away, a tiny flashlight swinging like a lantern in a storm. Kevin unlatched the deadbolt, opened the door a sliver, and found an empty hall. The elevator dinged somewhere above, cables groaning. The next evening the knocks came again, 3 measured tap. Same small figure, same pajama sleeves, same apologetic grin. "Oops, wrong door," she breathed. But her glance lingered on Kevin's silhouette behind the peephole, as though hoping he might break the barrier. By the time he yanked the door open she had vanished around the stairwell corner, light beam bobbing upward. Night 3 turned unease into vigilance. Precisely at 10:07 the tapping resumed. Kevin muted the television, hand hovering near the knob. Through the peephole the girl's face trembled like candle flame. "Oops, wrong door," she murmured, then bolted faster than before, slippers scuffing faded carpet. Something inside Kevin, maybe the marrow-deep instinct to protect recruits, maybe the ghost of Margaret's fierce empathy, refused to dismiss the child's retreat as mischief. He waited at the doorframe long after the corridor emptied, sensing an unfinished sentence in the air. At 11:42 p.m., a thud rattled the ceiling. It reminded him of a sandbag dropped onto plywood, blunt, grim, final. A sharper crash followed, then a stifled cry swallowed by drywall. Kevin's breath caught. Apartment 3D lay directly above. He had exchanged nods only twice with its occupant, a thin-lipped man who never shared his first name, only the surname Reynolds scribbled on a mailbox strip. The man's eyes, pale, recessive, struck Kevin as the kind that weighed every passerby for leverage. Water rushed through pipes overhead, a hiss that did nothing to wash away the earlier sound. Kevin's fingers clenched the stair banister until they whitened, yet he forced himself back into 2C. Soldiers learned to separate what they could fix from what they must endure, but a phantom of Margaret's voice challenged him. "Endurance matters, Kevin, but silence can be its own cruelty." He returned to the hallway with a ballpoint pen and sticky note, writing in block letters the words, "If you need help, knock again," and affixing the note below the peephole where small eyes might see. Then he kept vigil at the kitchen table, tea cooling beside untouched mail. The note was answered sooner than he hoped and later than he feared. The following night, 10:05 p.m., the knock arrived, a flutter-quick rap, half the strength of previous attempts. Kevin's heart drummed. He peeked. The child's flashlight flickered against her cheekbones, revealing a faint purple blotch near her temple. She read the note, bit her lip, and gently tapped a second time. He opened the door softly. "It's all right," Kevin said, voice steady but pitched low so as not to scare her. "You're safe to talk here." "He gets mad when I cry," she whispered, gaze skirting his. Then footsteps sounded above, deliberate, pacing, and the girl recoiled, flashlight beam trembling. "Oops, wrong door," she gasped, and sprinted upstairs before he could coax her name. Kevin's hands shook as he dialed an old number etched into muscle memory. "Karen Marsh," answered a woman's voice laced with midnight fatigue. "Karen, it's Kev." He explained the nightly knocks, the bruise, the apartment number. Karen, once his field medic, now worked child services in the county. "Give me 48 hours, Karen said. "I'll keep it off the books until I'm sure." 2 evenings passed without a single tap. Kevin paced grooves in the hardwood, replaying Reynolds' stoic nods in the mailbox alcove, wondering how many names hid behind one buzzer. On the third day, at 4:30 p.m., his phone buzzed with Karen's voice urgent through static. "Records show Reynolds is an alias. Multiple relocations. There's a flagged but sealed custody file involving a girl matching your description. I'm petitioning a welfare check." Kevin thanked her, though gratitude could not smother the pulse of dread that tightened his chest. He spent the afternoon scanning news articles about runaway foster children, memorizing hotline numbers, aligning stray magazines into parallel rank. Twilight seeped into the apartment, turning the tea steam lavender. At 9:58 p.m., he heard footsteps rushing down the stairs, lighter than an adult's, frantic. 3 rapid knocks hit the door. Kevin opened before she finished the last. The girl's face was streaked with dried tears and sweat. A maroon welt marked her chin. She clutched the chipped flashlight so tightly her knuckles blanched. Words tumbled out in gasps. "If he finds out, he hits me and I lose breakfast for a week." "Come inside," Kevin urged, stepping aside. The girl hesitated, eyes darting toward the stairwell, but crossed the threshold like someone stepping from ice onto solid earth. Kevin closed the door, slid the deadbolt, then kneeled to her level. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Lily," she whispered. The name seemed to lift something in her shoulders, as though spoken truth carried a small freedom. Kevin guided her to the sofa, fetched a flannel blanket, and offered warm water with honey. Lily sipped, still standing on alert. Kevin wanted to ask a dozen questions, but training reminded him, observe first, speak second. Her pajama hem revealed thin ankles dusted with faint bruises of different ages. The technician in his mind, calculating angles of entry wounds on battlefields, recognized patterns of repeat impact. He swallowed a tide of anger. Upstairs, a door slammed. Lily flinched, staring at the ceiling. "You're safe here," Kevin said. "I promise." "Promises break," Lily muttered, voice so small he almost missed it. Inside the cedar trunk, beneath neatly folded quilts and photo albums, rested remains of emergency gear he had never surrendered. Rope, a flashlight, a whistle, heavy-duty zip ties rated to hold half a ton. Kevin retrieved 2 of the ties, their plastic edges cold in his palm. He checked the peephole, hall silent. Then he returned to Lily. "I need to talk to someone upstairs," he explained, tone calm but iron-lined. "Will you stay here and finish your water?" She looked at the mug, then at him. Trust flickered, fragile but present. She nodded. Kevin unlocked the door and stepped into the corridor's stale air. His ribs still ached from an old shrapnel scar, but purpose straightened his spine. He climbed the stairs deliberately, knees creaking protest, yet every step felt inevitable, as if all deployments, all drills, all lonely nights without Margaret had prepared him for this singular hallway confrontation. The corridor outside 3D smelled of bleach and something metallic. A faint hum of running water persisted, punctuated by the rhythmic tick of an unbalanced fan. Kevin pressed his ear to the door. Voices murmured, one adult, low and clipped, and a second whimpering sound that twisted his stomach. He squared his shoulders and knocked, not timidly but with the authority of a man who had once led platoons through mortar storms. Locks rattled. The door cracked open. Reynolds' pale eyes appeared, narrowed by suspicion. "What do you want?" Reynolds asked, voice slick as oil. Kevin held the man's gaze. "Step aside," he said, voice unwavering. "We need to talk about Lily." A flicker of panic flitted through those pale pupils before his features hardened to disdain. "No Lily here. You must be confused." The door moved to close. Kevin inserted his boot between frame and jamb. Pain shot through an old ankle injury, but he didn't falter. "She's with me downstairs." Reynolds's veneer cracked, and contempt twisted to something feral. "You have no right," he began, lunging to shove Kevin away. At that instant the veteran's reflexes overtook age. He sidestepped, seized Reynolds's wrist, and pivoted, using the man's momentum to slam him against the hallway wall with a dull thud. Reynolds grunted, flailing. Kevin pinned his arm and reached for a zip tie with his free hand. Reynolds's elbow struck back, catching Kevin in the ribs. Fire in an old fracture. Kevin hissed but tightened his grip. The hallway swayed, yet memory steadied him. A rifle range, a wind-whipped rooftop, Margaret's hand on his shoulder the morning he left for basic. He looped the tie around Reynolds's wrists, pulling until the ratchet teeth clicked. A neighbor's door opened. Mrs. Gonzalez from 2A peeked out, eyes widening. "Call the police," Kevin said, breath short. She vanished back inside, the phone already in her hand. Reynolds twisted against the plastic, spitting curses. Kevin hauled him to the floor, knees pressed into the man's spine, and waited beneath buzzing fluorescent light that flickered like distant artillery. Sirens wailed 3 blocks out, their Doppler crescendo weaving through the night heat. Kevin's pulse matched the rhythm, yet another sound broke through: bare feet on carpet. Lily emerged at the stairwell, clutching her flashlight, fear battling curiosity on her face. "It's all right," Kevin told her, his voice softening though he still knelt on Reynolds's shoulder blades. "Help is coming." Red and blue lights washed through stairwell windows as the elevator dinged. Officers poured into the hallway, weapons holstered but hands poised. Moments later, a familiar figure strode in. Karen, badge clipped to her belt and resolution shining in her eyes. "Sergeant Evans," she greeted, masking worry with formality. "I'll take it from here." Relief sagged Kevin's shoulders, adrenaline ebbing into tremor. He nodded, stood, and let police restrain Reynolds while Karen's coworker coaxed Lily gently downstairs. Kevin followed, rib ache now a dull roar. Inside 2C, the living room lamp cast a warm oval on the sofa. Lily perched at the edge, blanket around her shoulders like a cape frayed by battles unseen. Karen entered last, clipboard in hand but expression tender. "You did good, Kev," she said quietly, a private compassion threading her words. Kevin placed a mug of sweet tea, Margaret's remedy, onto the coffee table. Lily's small fingers curled around the ceramic, steam kissing her cheeks. "Can I stay here?" she asked, voice quavering between plea and disbelief. "Stay as long as you need," Kevin answered, laying his weathered hand over hers. Lily exhaled a breath she seemed to have held all her life, shoulders loosening as though she finally felt gravity as comfort rather than burden. In the hallway, the hush of voices receded, and for the first time in many nights, the building sounded like any other ordinary place instead of a chamber of hidden harm. Kevin watched Lily's eyelids flutter in exhaustion before she gave in to the blanket's warmth. When her breathing settled into the steady rise and fall of sheltered sleep, he eased himself into the armchair facing the door. The living room clock claimed it was midnight, yet his nerves rejected rest. Karen lingered, flipping through pages on her clipboard. "Protective custody will take at least 48 hours, she whispered, not to wake Lily. "Paperwork, emergency hearing, temporary placement. Judges want ironclad proof before they strip an adult of guardianship, even scum like him." Kevin's jaw tightened. "Proof is sitting upstairs in bruises and forged documents, which a defense attorney will call circumstantial." Karen sighed. "We need sealed files unsealed. I'll petition, but bureaucracy drags its boots." "If the system drags," Kevin said, "I'll haul." Morning light seeped over the blinds, bleaching every object a chalky gray. Lily woke with a start, scanned the unfamiliar room, then spotted Kevin brewing tea in the kitchenette. "Morning, soldier," he said, remembering Margaret's playful greeting whenever new day crept into barracks. Lily blinked at the word but allowed a timid smile to surface. Does he know I'm gone?" she asked. Kevin poured hot water over 2 tea bags of peppermint, gentler, he thought, than chamomile's sleep spell. "He knows they took him in," Kevin answered. "You and I have time to get smart." Lily wrapped both palms around the mug, as if anchoring herself to warmth. "They always send me back," she murmured. "Every house." "Not this time." Kevin kept his tone even, the way drill instructors steadied recruits before night training. "We're going to shine so much light on his lies there won't be shadows big enough to hide him." Conflict reignited faster than Kevin expected. By sunset, Reynolds had posted bail, an oversight of a night shift magistrate who saw only a misdemeanor assault on Kevin and ignored Karen's preliminary welfare report. A restraining order barred Reynolds from Crestview Terrace, but Kevin carried no illusion of safety. That night, a thick envelope slid under 2CS door. No return address, just the single-word "traitor" in block capitals across the front. Inside lay printed photos. Kevin entering his apartment, Kevin buying groceries, Kevin saluting at a veteran's breakfast. Each shot telephoto grainy, each time-stamped within the past week. The message needed no signature. Karen arrived 20 minutes later, expression like tungsten. "Bail shouldn't have cleared," she hissed, scanning the photos. "Judge Collins will reverse it at tomorrow's hearing, but that still gives him 16 hours. She eyed Lily, who stood quietly by the fish tank Margaret had once kept. "We're relocating you both to a safe motel, for tonight." Lily's shoulders slumped. "Another motel." Kevin knelt beside her. "Just overnight, kiddo. A strategic retreat before the next assault." The motel smelled of disinfectant and old cigarette embers beneath fresh paint. Kevin set up an observation post by the window, chair angled to survey the parking lot. Lily perched on the bed, flashlight rolling between her palms. Karen placed a miniature voice recorder on the nightstand. "Lily," she began gently, "we need your story start to finish. Details matter, no matter how small or scary." Lily's eyes darted to Kevin. He nodded once, a promise without words. "It started in March," Lily began, voice a quiver stretched between courage and memory. Karen pressed record. Lily spoke of chores that lasted past midnight, breakfasts withheld, and punishments with the household's rubber mallet, an object Reynolds claimed was for carpentry projects no neighbor had ever seen him build. Kevin clenched his fists until nails bit flesh. Lily described fake homeschooling packets, worksheets copied from online samples but never graded, and trips to grocery stores where she had to call Reynolds' dad to avoid questions. "My real last name isn't even Reynolds," Lily whispered. "It's Pearson. He never lets me say it." Karen's eyes glimmered. "We'll get it all back." Across town, midnight's hearing unfolded at Judge Collins's house chambers, a stately residence repurposed for emergency family court. Kevin sat stiff-backed beside Karen while Lily waited in a side room with a counselor. Reynolds appeared flanked by an attorney who wore a silk tie patterned with fleur-de-lis, a historical irony not lost on Kevin, who had once marched through real lilies in mud-soaked boots. Reynolds's cheek bore a yellowing print of hallway drywall. His eyes, however, gleamed with self-satisfaction, as if bail alone proved invincibility. He whispered to his lawyer, smirk curling like smoke. Karen submitted Lily's recorded testimony, Kevin's written affidavit, the photos of bruises catalogued by a nurse, and a dossier on Reynolds's aliases finally unsealed 3 hours earlier. The judge leafed through the stack, brow furrowing deeper with each page. Reynolds's lawyer objected to the recorder, claiming coercive environment. Judge Collins lifted one snowy eyebrow. "Coercive is locking a child in a closet," she said. Objection overruled. The hearing stretched toward dawn. Kevin could almost see the scales of justice teeter, grains of evidence sifting steadily against Reynolds. Yet the man's smug composure held, buoyed by loopholes and technicalities his counsel hurled like grappling hooks. When the judge recessed for deliberation, Kevin stepped into the courtyard to inhale cold air that smelled of tulips and drizzle. Karen joined him. "We need more," she muttered. "Something irrefutable. He'll stall, drag Lily into foster limbo. I can feel it." Kevin studied the sky paling behind chimneys. Pale blue like Reynolds's eyes, he thought, but the dawn felt nothing like that man. It felt wide and promising. "We break his pattern," Kevin said, with the truth he can't erase. His mind ticked through soldier logic. Recon, intelligence, infiltration. "Bodycam hallway footage," he murmured. "The building upgraded last year. Cameras cover every floor." Karen's gaze sharpened. "Time-stamped video of him chasing Lily? We subpoena now." "Judge's clerks wake with coffee in 20 minutes, Kevin said. "Let's give them a request." By noon the next day, Kevin and Karen sat in the precinct's evidence room while an IT officer queued up the footage. Grainy digital images unfolded across the monitor. Timestamp 22:04, Lily emerging from 3D, clutching her flashlight. Timestamp 22:05, Reynolds yanking the door, arm raised in a gesture unmistakable even without sound. Lily flinched, darted down one flight, toward Kevin's door. Timestamp 22:07, Lily knocked, Kevin opened, Reynolds appeared at the stairwell above, face contorted in rage before retreating into shadow. "Copy that to 3 drives, Karen instructed, voice flat iron. "Chain of custody starts now." Conflict escalated to its final pitch at the full custody trial a week later. The courthouse gallery brimmed with neighbors, reporters, and an aisle of veterans in pressed dress jackets, men and women Kevin had once commanded or saluted beside. They formed a silent honor guard behind him, 6 rows deep. Lily entered clutching a small plush bear donated by Mrs. Gonzalez. Her flashlight remained in evidence storage, but she glanced toward Kevin, who touched 2 fingers to his brow in a private salute. She settled at the witness stand, feet dangling from the high chair, sworn in with a voice steadier than anyone expected. Reynolds's attorney tried to rattle her. "You've lived in many homes, haven't you? Perhaps you confuse punishments." Lily met his gaze. "Bruises don't confuse," she replied, each word a pebble dropped into hush. Kevin's chest warmed with pride and sorrow mingled. Karen presented video footage. The muted images played before the court. Reynolds's earlier confidence drained, replaced by perspiration along his hairline. Then came the forged schooling documents, an adoption file with a doctored signature of a social worker who had died 3 years before its date, and Lily's medical records showing chronic malnutrition. The tipping point arrived when another witness took the stand. Ms. Harlow, a clerk from the previous county Reynolds had fled. She identified him under yet another alias and recounted a sealed complaint eerily similar. Complaint dropped when he vanished overnight. Her testimony slashed the last rope anchoring his defense. Judge Collins adjourned for only 15 minutes before returning with a gavel's sharp report. Permanent guardianship of the minor, Lily Pearson, is hereby removed from the respondent and placed under the temporary care of the state, with immediate placement in the foster guardianship of Mr. Kevin Evans pending final adoption review, she declared. Reynolds sprang up, shouting accusations of conspiracy, but bailiffs restrained him. Lily's shoulders sagged in visible relief. Kevin felt age-old instincts, the impulse to brace for next attack, finally loosen their grip. Yet the battle's cost presented itself an hour later when adrenaline subsided. Kevin's bruised ribs flared incandescent, and his doctor decreed 6 weeks of rest. Margaret's cedar trunk, long packed away, came down from the closet. Lily helped polish its brass latches with careful strokes, as though sealing old campaigns inside so Kevin could focus on newer ones. Over the next month, Lily and Kevin carved routines. Tuesday library trips where she devoured books on astronomy, Wednesday grocery runs graded like missions. Lily reading the list, Kevin timing efficient routes with a stopwatch. Thursday evenings they brewed sweet tea and swapped one secret each. Lily admitted she liked licorice despite Reynolds calling it trash candy. Kevin confessed he dreaded silence after sunset. One rainy Friday, Lily paused mid-homework. "When people adopt," she asked, "can they keep the kid's last name?" "They can," Kevin answered. "Only if the kid wants." "I want Pearson Evans," she said, pen tapping notebook lines. Hyphen like two bridges. Kevin swallowed around a lump larger than any battlefield knot. "Permission granted, soldier," he whispered. Karen visited regularly, finalizing paperwork faster than any civil servant Kevin had witnessed. "Retirement wasn't busy enough?" she teased him one evening, nodding toward Lily engrossed in building a model rocket. Kevin shrugged. "Some missions find you," he said. Summer slipped into amber leaves, and the complex's residents began greeting Lily by name instead of curious stares. Mr. and Mrs. Yamada on 1B taught her origami. Mr. Rosario down the hall tuned her classroom tablet. The building that once echoed with hidden cries now bustled with community chatter, as if every neighbor had conspired to paint over old shadows. 2 days before Thanksgiving, adoption papers arrived with a courier envelope stamped expedite. Kevin knelt on the living room rug while Lily unfolded each page. Her flashlight, now replaced by a pink desk lamp, nevertheless sat on the shelf, a relic of darkness she refused to discard. "Sign here, initial there," Kevin guided, his hand steady over dotted lines. When complete, Lily exhaled a surprised laugh, the kind of sound children make when playground swings crest just before descent. She tackled him in a hug that jostled sore ribs made tender again by months. "Mission accomplished," she said into his sweater. Kevin closed his eyes, tasting chamomile in memory, hearing Margaret's voice drift like wind chimes. "Look at you, old soldier, still finding battles worth winning." On Christmas Eve, a modest gathering filled 2C. Karen, Mrs. Gonzalez, the Yamadas, 2 veterans who had once bunked in Kev's platoon. The cedar trunk served as coffee table beneath a red checkered cloth. Lily performed a dramatic reading of A Visit from St. Nicholas, complete with flashlight shadow illustrations on the wall. Laughter swelled, and for another moment Kevin glimpsed the barracks camaraderie of decades past, only softer, threaded with peppermint and tinsel rather than gun oil and orders. He realized, with a startle of gratitude, that the mission was no longer about ending danger, it was about sustaining peace. Later, after guests departed and snow patted the windows, Lily climbed onto the sofa beside Kevin. "What now?" she asked, voice hushed so as not to disturb the hush outside. "Now," Kevin said, "we build routines so boring no writer would bother telling them. Breakfasts that never vanish, knocks that always mean friends, and doors that open because they can, not because they must." Lily leaned against him. "Can we keep reading Frank's fables every night?" "Deal," Kevin said. "And you'll take over the closing line." She grinned. "Copy that." Spring's first crocuses sprouted in planters by the front stoop when Lily finished her very first science fair project, a model of lunar phases using rope, styrofoam, and the chipped flashlight re-rigged as miniature sun. Kevin watched her present to judges, voice clear, posture confident. She won honorable mention. They celebrated with licorice and sweet tea at sunset while neighbors applauded from balconies. Kevin found himself, months later, standing before Crestview Terrace's mailboxes, recalling the night he had slipped a sticky note beneath the peephole. What began as knock and echo had grown into orbiting routines, 2 solitary celestial bodies captured by gravity into the safety of each other's pull. Reynolds had been sentenced to 15 years, but Kevin thought less of the man now than of the variables that conspired to place Lily and her flashlight at his door. He checked his wristwatch. Blinds needed adjusting to the 32-degree slant before sundown. Upstairs, Lily's laughter rolled down the staircase like skipped stones, scattering any lingering ghosts of hush. "Welcome back to Frank's Fables." Lily's voice rang from the living room as she practiced their nightly introduction. "Before we begin, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy stories that give a vulnerable child a voice, be sure to like and subscribe for more." Kevin chuckled, turning the final slat on the blinds. Routine complete, he stepped into the glow of the lamp, where Lily sat cross-legged on the carpet, storybook in lap. "Ready, soldier?" Kevin asked. "Ready, Dad," Lily answered, her grin bright enough to chase away every hallway shadow he could remember. Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed the story, give this video a like if you haven't already, and subscribe for more.